of the LPL, the widely and highly anticipated TES first seed of the summer split going up against Suning, third seed going into Worlds 2020, who got the furthest out of every single Chinese team. Of course, Suning with their support changes, as well as TES with their support changes. Aside from that, the roster is entirely the same. Both teams very, very well versed at going up against each other. However, both teams have a change of coaches, and this is some exciting times as the thought processes going into the games could be entirely different from what we are used to from the past season, as TES with the Zoe, with the Renekton, and with the Olaf band, while Suning with the Graves, Ornn, and Akali band. Kind of surprised there about the Akali band. On the side of Suning, with Angel, of course, Angel using it as his main counter to Syndra, and as Syndra is up and Knight is definitely still known as one of the best Syndras in the world, it is kind of an interesting ban. However, they might be worried about the 369 and Knight Akali flex pick. 369, of course, being an insane player of the champion. Meanwhile, on the first pick, we have Samira coming in and a Kai'Sa Aatrox in response. Suning opting to second pick their top laner, which is quite different from what we are used to. We are, of course, used to been getting that last pick, getting a favorable matchup, being able to stomp his lane. However, Aatrox is just so strong right now with the God Drinker and with all of the sustain he gets from his ultimate and from his passive. Meanwhile, TES then opt to go for the Leona and Pantheon in the second stage. Of course, Samira Leona with the ton of CC, ton of damage, ton of peel, ton of engage, a fantastic bottom lane, and a real team fight threat. Pantheon, another Gold Drinker abuser with tons of damage. Meanwhile, Nidalee going over to the side of Suning. SOFM's Nidalee, a thing of beauty as well. And now with the damage mix in the top lane for Suning, let's see what they look to ban out. Wouldn't be surprised here to see some mid and top centered bans, as the TES's draft so far leaves very little to the imagination. A Kennen ban coming out on the side of Suning, not wanting to give Kennen a free lane against this Aatrox. Of course, on your screen here, we see 369 seemingly quite unconcerned about that ban, as FPX's ex-head coach is currently the TES coach. Of course, he is in his own right a world champion caliber coach, bringing so much to the FPX organization in the years that he was employed there, as TES wait till the last second and opt to take out the global pressure of ATF from the side of Angel. Angel looking now on the side of SN. Let's see. I wouldn't be particularly surprised to see maybe a Syndra brand here. Perhaps they'd consider. Actually, 369 has such a champion ocean, however. They still opt to throw their two bans into the top side in order to make up for Bin having to second pick his ban, his champion, knowing that TES will probably like to take advantage of it, since Bin has been known to be the strong point, tend to be the focal point of Suning's game plan. Of course, SOFM playing fantastically well with him as an Orianna ban coming out. TES using their last two bans focused on Angel, while Suning throwing their two bans towards 369. TES wanting to make their advantages for the mid lane, while Suning wanting to create their advantages for their top side. Of course, TES, I would argue, is in a much better position, considering the fact that Bin's champion has already been picked, while the mid laner for TES, well, to be fair, Knight has no idea what he's going up against now, because this is most likely a Galio spot. Galio, of course, an ideal pick against the Samira, who likes to dash in there and get into the midst of everybody, where Galio doesn't need to use his Justice Punch to close the gap, can in fact use his taunt to get the Samira and then secure an easy Justice Punch into a chain CC for the rest of his team to jump on her. Knight here going for his comfort pick, going back to what is tried and true, going back to the Syndra pick, and of course can't say fault him. So far the team comp is looking great with fantastic damage with the damage split from AP in Syndra and the AD damage of the Samira, of the Pantheon in the top side. Are we going to be seeing a Karma support here? Wouldn't be surprised. There's tons of damage on the team, and there's a little bit of extra bit of utility, and a comfortable lane against Aatrox, I think, is looking as a good pick for the side of TES. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, a Lucian pick is being threatened. Of course, Lucian Nidalee would be just fine, as a whole the entirety of the locker of Angel's champion pool seems to be being flashed in front of TS, threatening multiple picks. However, they seem rather settled on the Victor, which they do eventually lock in. Victor, of course, with a slightly weaker laning phase, but scales fantastically into the late game, which, by the looks of it, both teams would be comfortable going into. TES having a really strong having really strong lanes with priority in mid, in top, will be able to will likely look to play around the mid and top side before eventually rotating down to help Jackie Love in the bottom side. Suning, on the other hand, having much more priority in the bot lane with the Galio wave clear of his passive and his Q, as well as the Catherine Rain, Kai'Sa's own Q. Victor in the mid lane is just going to try to do his best, I think, to get to his item upgrades and to farm as best as he can, while Bin in the top side will likely be looking to be as self-sufficient as possible. I think TES here looking to play for top side, while Suning is likely looking to play from the bottom side. Of course, this is quite a different look from the Suning that we're used to looking at, with them generally prioritizing giving attention to Bin in the top side, who is on one of these champions that can really excel in lane and can be taken to the next level, that can be unleashed onto the rest of the enemy team if he does well in his lane. As the player is loading into the rift right now, I'm not surprised. I'm pretty sure we're going to see a very standard early game with just a defensive setup for both teams, not particularly strong in the early game, I would argue, for either side. In fact, if I had to choose between one side, I would say that Suning have a stronger level 1, considering Suning's Aatrox has 3 abilities in one with his Q, and Lily has 2 abilities in one with her transformation and her javelins, if she chooses to go for them. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we're not going to see very much aggression in the early game as teams hit the rift for the first game technically of Spring 2021. The LPL is now fully underway. I love that the LPL games every single day, no end to the amount of games that we get to commentate together, and every game is a best of 3. It is a phenomenal. I love this league so much as Karsa chucks a ward in the pixel bush in the river, recalling to switch out to his sweeper and narrowly avoiding SOFM's first Q of the game, which he chucks another one into the top side pixel bush, feeling confident that there may be someone there. As Angel throws a ward down in the top side river bush, Karsa looking to start at his red buff and finish towards the top side with his sweeper can be a threat for Bin. Suning also leashing their bottom side. TS leashing their bottom side I think they are the weak side this time. SN on the other hand is also leashing their bottom side. I suppose they don't feel that getting to lane late will make much of a difference to them, as TES as Angel and Knight are already beginning to trade against each other, already beginning to try and push the lanes away from each other as the bot lanes get to their positions. Top laners already in their positions, and we are well and truly underway as Zor hits his Q onto the Galio. Galio lands his taunt, gets his aftershock, negates some of the damage, really not taking. Obviously, Zor and Jackie Love really winning out on that trade over there. However, the Galio with his potions will be able to heal back to full, as Knight is seemingly getting out-traded slightly by the Victor in the early game. Angel using his E to harass rather than clear the waves gets hit by a Scatter the Weak, stunned up and followed up with a Q, as 369 naturally getting the priority as the top laner, shoving in towards Bin, who looks to be just looking to farm out these minions under the tower. So far, with his fleet footwork and the sustain of his passive, I think Bin will be in a fine position. It's a funny pick, I think, this Karma pick, as the Karma pick is for the later game team fighting. I'm pretty sure the mid to late game team fighting. However, it doesn't really hard counter a champion like Aatrox, who has so much innate healing and sustain in lane. And especially with the fleet footwork, he gets so much sustain, 100% healing, considering the fact that he is a melee champion. Oh, I think that last Q might have messed up the wave there for Bin. he loses 2 CS as a result. Karsa clearing up his entire jungle with the exception of Krux opts to contest the bottom side scuttle for some reason. I fully expected him to finish top side. However, with 369 pushed in, I suppose he saw that there was nothing really that he could do against an Aatrox who is so healthy with the sustain that we previously alluded to. Knight running low on mana here, throwing out his harass onto Angel, popping his corrupting potions, and with his biscuits, both sides have plenty of sustain, both in terms of HP and mana. As Dragon looking to spawn in a minute's time, Scuttle Crabs have been split between the junglers, and the CS of both junglers is looking quite even. Karsa now just catching up with SOFM, who got his back off a little bit later. In fact, Karsa has yet to back, showing you the difference in terms of speed of which Nidalee clears as opposed to Pantheon. Pantheon, of course, incredibly strong with his mid-game power spike. Karsa now down here looking for a gank, or perhaps looking to counter gank SOFM, who is also in the bottom side. However, SOFM is simply just looking to full clear his jungle yet again. As both junglers, I think, doing a fantastic job just reading into each other's pathing. Karsa. Anyway, so the Pantheon pick, going back to that, it really is strong. It's incredibly strong now with its Gore Drinker and scales a little bit better considering the healing, sustain, and the damage, as well as the HP that it gives you. And of course, Pantheon can really appreciate the ability haste that it gives each of your legendary items, as his stun comes off cooldown faster, his E comes off cooldown faster, his Q comes off cooldown faster. And of course, Pantheon is mainly an spell casting ability. A champion who does damage mainly through his abilities, has been getting some harass there onto 369, who just shields and walks out of the chains of torment. Bin, all things considered, is doing a pretty good job keeping up with CS. 369 only now about 10 CS down. However, with a minion wave that is about 12 to 13 minions strong, I think Bin will be having a fine time just collecting all this as he tanks up the minion waves and begins to prep them for farming under tower, doing a fantastic job. Meanwhile, the bot lane looks like a slight bit of a scuffle is going down. However, both sides have every summoner spell. Both sides are incredibly healthy as SOFM puts a pink ward into the river bush. However, is spotted out by an advanced ward on the side of Knight. SOFM probably looking for that ward. Puts a ward over the wall into the transit, as blue buff will be spawning in the next minute and a half. Looking to see if Knight goes for that, looking to try and guess Pantheon's positioning. Pantheon, of course, not looking for any ganks in the early game. And in terms of keeping out a farm, he is doing a fairly good job. Like, Nidalee does for sure clear a lot faster than Pantheon, but with the changes going into Season 11, the jungle is now easier to take. So these kind of the Pantheon picks and the different jungle picks are perfectly fine, as an E goes in on now, getting hit by all forms of CC, jumping back in with the Justice Punch as Karsa jumps forward, but SOFM is here as well. Zoa taking tons of damage, going in first into two people, followed up by SOFM, who came slightly later, takes tons of damage, and on in comparison with his Aftershock proc from his taunt, walks out of there with a ton of HP comparatively, as SOFM clears out the Tri-Bush Pink Ward. Zoa reset already with his low health pool, running back to lane. Perhaps seeing as to how that the danger has been averted, he might change his pathing and go mid lane instead, to look for something to either protect against a gank, to look for a gank, or to get some vision into the river as he walks through the bottom side jungle. Meanwhile, 369, really his damage is coming in on Bin, but again, the fleet footwork, as soon as he autos that minion with his passive, so much healing, as Zoa walks into the river to get some wards out, to clear out vision in the river, which there is actually none of on the side of Suning, on doing the exact same on the exact same side of the map. However, taking a more cautious approach, taking a more cautious route. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Angel is actually doing a fantastic job with his E to clear the wave as well as harass at the same time. Of course, this is one of Victor's advantages, that his wave clear can be doubled as harass, especially if you do not position properly. Knight, of course, positioning as well as he can, so Angel can only hit 3 minions as well as himself. Karsa now warding up the top side. Pings coming out on SOFM onto 369 from what I suppose is Bin, and SOFM pinging himself as well, letting Bin know that he is in the area, that he is available to gank. Karma, of course, very hard to gank with her speed ups, as well as her E being a shield and her W being a bunch of sustain. Karsa also in the top side, as I'm not quite sure which jungler is tracking who, but both junglers I think are doing a phenomenal job at it, as SOFM looking to pop, using his trap to see over the wall, sees that Rift Herald is being done. However, topside priority going over through 369, and Bin is backing. So SOFM finding himself in the middle of three people, flashes out. However, 369 positions himself to be in such a perfect position that he doesn't even need to take many steps in order to catch up as the binding comes out. Knight flashing forward, unleashing his power, as Bin opting to truly push out the wave instead of use his teleport to get back, and now only looking to reset as Rift Herald goes over to Karsa. As we mentioned before, Karsa will probably be looking to get his advantages in the top side of the map, as in this current point in time, 369 and Knight definitely have an easier time securing priority. So Dragon now being the only objective left on the map will probably be the next point of contestation. Suning will probably be more comfortable contesting this with their bot lane being quite strong as it is. That being said, we still have the issue of Angel not really having the ability to counter Knight's pushing ability. As even after his E is upgraded, he won't be able to push as fast as Knight per se. That being said, his E being upgraded, which I'm pretty sure it is now, is going to be a huge boost that he can use. Meanwhile, Karsa waiting for Raptors to spawn. Perfectly timed, honestly, by the side of TES. Knight, of course, helping him to secure, in fact, taking most of the camp himself, as SOFM secures vision in the Dragon. Not looking to make any plays now, looking to let his team scale up, looking to get his solo laners their first couple of items to get their mythics, in which case they will be at their strongest point. And fully ready to start contesting. Angel now, again, despite his E being upgraded, is slightly slower than Knight. Of course, Knight with his blue buff. SOFM, meanwhile, not providing the blue buff for the side of Angel. Angel could be running into some mana issues slowly and surely, which could lead to them if TES want to, since Knight will have the priority for sure now, as long as the blue buff is there with his infinite mana sustain, can look to threaten Dragon. A whole host of pings coming out now in the river as Zor comes in to secure vision to prepare for the Dragon. Karsa, of course, in the bottom side as well, as Zor clears out the two pink wards in the river, looks to get some vision into the bottom side of the map of Suning. Throws a ward over the Gromp to spot out whatever he can on using his sweeper now, as Karsa throws down the Rift Herald in the mid lane, looking to pressure it, while I'm pretty sure Knight looking for a catch on SFM, who uses his leap to get out of the way. Now with everything in the perfect position and tower plating going over to Karsa with the mid lane tower being softened up slightly, TES looking to trap and death bush Suning as Zor flashes in, missing every single spell. But of course, this is the Zor that we have come to know from watching the Demacia Cup, from watching his first game in the LPL Spring Split. He will, if you give him the Leona, he will go in. Him and Jackie Love, in a way, make an ideal combo, as both players absolutely love to go in. But I think if we had to compare the two, I think Zor might have an even more fun time jumping in, as now Bin, with his wave clear that his abilities are giving him, and the Iron Spike, is having a much easier time pushing out against 369 now, losing the ability to have priority in his lane, as Angel clearing out the wave with a single E now quite easily. Karsa waiting for his red buff to spawn as Zor hits yet again into the river to secure vision, as a whole host of wards await him over this wall. A true treasure trove and bounty of wards. However, I do not think he will be willing to go into that, as is also a Nidalee defending it, as well as a Victor standing close behind to protect her. As On comes in to wrestle back the vision. Zor now hitting so many wards, 6 wards in about as much area as a blue buff has in its spawn, as Jackie Love and Huanfeng have some solo AD carry time. Perhaps we would see Huanfeng jumping in here with his ultimate to attempt a 1v1. However, Jackie Love with his W able to block auto attacks, be able to block Kaisa W, which is a huge chunk of her damage in the early game. And if he manages to block the first 3 attacks as well as the W, Jackie Love will surely win that fight. As Karsa again heading into the river to secure the vision, starting up Dragon now. SOFM in the top side of the map likely means that Huanfeng and On will just look to catch these mini waves under tower, and the first Dragon at 14 minutes will very handedly go over to TES. Not quite sure which team is happier now that the game is taking a rather slow tempo, as this is perhaps one of the longest dragons that has been alive, the longest first dragons to be alive, and this is an extremely passive game by all considerations, with both teams. Oh, just as I say that, Zoro gets caught out by On, who uses the Justice Plunge to close the gap and lands his taunt. A beautiful sidestep there by On, dodging the Scatter the Weak, allowing himself to take no damage whatsoever in that little harass that he got. And just as things started to look a little bit more exciting for us, ladies and gentlemen, things revert back to normal, as Bin has now gathered a 1 level advantage as well as a... Can't seem to do maths today, as a 7 CS, now a 5 CS lead on to 369, basically equalizing between Bin and 369. Bin having done a fantastic job being completely isolated in his lane with 369. The junglers so far have really not been doing much but farming and kind of reading each other very well, being able to tell which side each other will be on and being there in order to make a counter play. So both sides doing a phenomenal job on that. Yeah, but as far as games go, this is a really slow game, as Second Rift Herald has spawned. Good thing about this is that there will definitely be a contest for this, as TS starting it up already. Karsa TS having rotated Zoa up there, looking to rotate Jackie Love perhaps into the mid lane to get a 5-person contest there. However, Jackie Love now heading back towards the bot lane, seeing that Huanfeng isn't even rotating, making the rest of his team feel fairly confident that this is a uncontested Rift Herald, as Jackie Love soaking up that bottom farm. Huanfeng resetting and now running... No, he's not resetting actually. Huanfeng with his Gale Force running into the mid lane. However, the second Rift Herald of the game does go towards TES. Karsa will probably look to wait until the 40-second mark and throw that Rift Herald into the mid lane. Sieging down mid lane, tier 1 tower, of course, tier 3 tower, of course, allows you to open up the map. As usual, TES and Suning, both the support players wrestling each other for vision control of the bottom side river towards mid lane. Victor now at this point with the spread of items that he has gone for actually, and being 19 CS down, is slightly behind on his mythic item upgrade. SOFM standing guard there. The Vietnamese sniper, as soon as they leave, start walking into cleared walls. He might be a bit greedy here, as Zoa has ultimate. Of course, in this very corridor, we saw just moments ago him missing every single spell he threw out. The fancy feat of SOFM, not one to be trifled with, as mid lane Knight again with his blue buff getting priority in the mid lane. Angel there having to expend more mana than he would like, I'm pretty sure, as TES sending Jackie Love to get the bottom side tower. Huanfeng doing very little that he can do, even though he is higher range than Jackie Love, not feeling particularly confident, knowing that the rest of TES is around the bottom side, is looking and posturing to dive him, as Kasa throws down the Rift Herald again. Gravity Field coming out from Angel to try and stall the minion wave, as he is stunned up by the Scatter the Weak in a awfully precarious position, as the mid-tier 3 tower of Suning is left standing by a sliver, if not a thread of health. As Jackie Love now rotating up, so far TS looking to blow the game slightly wider open, looking to steal away Angel's blue buff, looking to give Knight the infinite blue buff. Oh, that was a bit of a mouthful. And in this game, so far, I suppose it would be like watching. Don't be fooled, ladies and gentlemen, as we look into the gold lead of that TES has managed to accumulate over the last 18 minutes. It is only a 2k gold lead, but these kind of things can balloon out of control as On looking to catch Karsa with his W. However, the movement speed reduction that it leads, that the W results in not allowing him to catch up to Karsa, who walks away. Karsa opting for the Ionian Boots of Lucidity as in opting for the Ionian Boots of Lucidity rather than the Mercury Threads here, I think is a bit of a greedy look, as of course Suning have 3 AP champions on their team as well as a host of CC. However, some say the best defense is a good offense and the enemy cannot really do damage to you if they are dead, so I suppose fair enough. As well as the fact that Pantheon does not have a very easy way of conveniently closing the distance, as the vision contest here breaks out into an all-out brawl as 3 members of Suning are being taken on by 4 members of Suning are being taken on by Jackie Love and Zo. Jackie Love in the backlines of Suning trying to do his damage. However, Huan Feng, even with his Gale Force without really much high life steal at all, manages to do a ton more damage and is sustained. A stun coming out from Karsa, which is cleansed by Huan Feng as he flashes out. Karsa now having to run away from the fight, and Jackie Love and Zo overstepping by leaps and bounds in that fight, taking a 2v3 situation with Angel collapsing from the mid lane into basically a 4v2 situation, both champions going way too deep. The Samira ultimate coming out, however, the lifesteal not being enough to tank the damage, as Suning have quite a bit of a superior positioning here, as Huan Feng is free to hit the tier 3 tower while his team defends him in the river from a collapsing Knight and 369 as the mid tier 3 tower goes down. However, Dragon going over to the side of TES. I don't think Suning are particularly sad to be parting with this one. Of course, Windrake being seen as one of the less valuable per se dragons, as SOFM stealing back his own blue buff, stealing TES's blue buff away from them as they have done to his own blue buff. Clearing out Grump as well, looking to take away as much resources as possible as Angel pushes out the top lane, which forces a TP from Knight to catch this CS. Knight arriving just in time, as we see again 2 members here with Huan Feng coming in from the bot lane and no one in the mid lane for TS. Zor goes in, lands a 2-man stun. Jackie Love seeing his opportunity, goes in there to get his stack, gets his ultimate over, forcing, of course, SOFM to flash over the wall, but Bing comes in with his teleport, turning into a 5v2 situation before TS can really get their 2 more members up there, before their main damage source of Jackie Love was taken down. Jackie Love, being one of the 2 main sources of damage for TES, has to play slightly more carefully, as when he goes down, immediately half of the damage on TES's side is taken with him, as Bin jumps over the wall, finds Karsa doing the scuttle crab, looking to contest. Karsa 3 levels behind onto Bin, looking to be taken out here. However, the rest of TES is here, as Suning looking to do onto TES what TES did onto them, or just at a different entrance, as Zuo's E is cancelled by the gravity field. Karsa jumping in with his ultimate, however, no one else going in, everyone collecting back. He's kept alive with his E, and abilities are traded back and forth. Knight coming in, landing the stun onto Bin, unleashing his ultimate onto Bin, who survives with yet another thread of HP, as Knight is in an unfortunate position. On jumps in with his flash, with his Justice Punch, and a Q coming in on SOFM. SOFM threatening the jump, however, waiting patiently, forcing Knight to use his flash. Very patient play there on the side as SOFM, seeing blood but not committing himself into a sure death situation, as he would most certainly have died and maybe not even been able to land his Q on tonight, even with a flash W. Whew. SOFM also opting not to go for that play, has also managed to conserve his stopwatch and be able to use it in the next point of contestation, be it this Baron or the next Infernal Dragon in the 2 minute and 35 seconds from now that it will spawn. Jackie Love, as I was saying, he can play aggressively and he can carry the game, and it's perfectly fine to put it on him. However, he needs to consider the fact that once he goes down, their consistent damage of TES goes completely down with him, and all you have left is the burst and kind of consistent damage of Knight. On the side of Suning, their damage is much more split up between their top side as well as AD carry. Of course, with SOFM being able to land these spears, it also creates a assassination poke threat on the side of Suning. SOFM not feeling particularly safe in securing the mid lane in the mid wave. They're sitting back and throwing spears at the mini wave to collect the CS one by one as Bin pressures the bot side with the minions rotating up now to perhaps look to contest Baron. 369 is sent down here with his teleport nearly up. Bin's teleport also nearly up, as the only teleport that is really up now aside from Angels is 369 that has just freshly come off cooldown. Ionian Boots of Lucidity, of course, with the 12% summoner spell cooldown reduction, is really coming in handy here as a stun lands in onto SOFM from Knight. However, on there to protect his jungler, as SOFM going down will surely lead to TES claiming the first Baron of the game. And despite how the last two fights have gone, TES is still in a very, very slight nominal lead over Suning. However, I feel like Suning's composition at this point is kind of set because they just have so much damage threats. They have so many things that SN need to focus on, while the TS need to focus on, while TES only really need SN really only need to focus down Dracula, focus down Knight, and just like that they are kind of set. Has been still taking damage from 369. However, 369 going for the Staff of Flowing Water, going for the utility items, is probably going to start falling off in terms of damage, and now really just wants to group with his team when he's not farming side waves and answering Bin's split push. As now we head well and truly into the mid game. Every champion pretty much has his 2 item power spike except for Karsa, as well as Zor and On, of course, as well as SOFM as the junglers and supports. Not getting so much love or gold in this game as a stun coming out. SOFM is stunned, however, flash in on Zor. This might be way too deep as the gravity field coming out from Victor, zoning out the rest of the team, as well as the Galio ultimate knocking up Zor, keeping him in place enough for the rest of SN to collapse on him and take him out, as TES still looking to contest this Jackie with his marks all up, ready with his ultimate. However, going in now would probably lead to death as Karsa is caught out by an Aatrox Q and the chains, the shield coming in from Karma, giving him the movement speed he needs to be able to escape. And a 4v5 situation does not look like one that a normal team would take, but welcome to the LPL, ladies and gentlemen, as Karsa looking to blast plant over, finally in the last moment thinks against it as Angel running forward with his gravity field, with his ultimate, harassing TS and chasing them away from the dragon long after the dragon has been taken down. And Zor there, as we previously mentioned, is, I wouldn't say a weak point in the armor of TES, flashing in very aggressively. SOFM getting the distance he needs with just a pounce, using his stopwatch, and then the ultimate coming in from On to disengage, to dissuade TES from jumping in there, and then being able to land his taunt straight afterwards, keeping Zor in position long enough for the rest of his team to finish him off. Of course, the Victor gravity field there doing a fantastic job at zoning the rest of TES. And now we see even more that TES is Suning in these tight corridors of the river, of the jungle, have a huge advantage with the Victor, who is now past his weakest stage, who is now ready to take off and carry the game. He now has, with the stun, with the ultimate, with the E follow-up, has the ability to really close down choke points. And if TES want to fight in a choke point, he will zone them and be able to disrupt them, be able to split the fight up, force TES to take a bad flight, as Jackie Love running forward, getting his harass down on S to SOFM. SOFM with his heal will probably be back up to full in no time, as Bin runs into 369, but I think he doesn't really fear 369 more often than not. He fears what comes after, which in this form is a Karsa coming in with the ultimate, but Bin popping his own ultimate, getting the movement speed, and using his E to slide over the wall. Actually escapes with taking relatively little damage, as this Pantheon pick, while it hasn't led to them feeding, has really been quite underwhelming, as the superior range of the Nidalee with her poke and the utility that she brings with her vision from her traps, as well as her healing, is just doing much better, as Karsa jumping in onto Angel, but the gravity field again forcing his flash, taking tons of damage, only alive due to the utility of his E keeping him alive. Meanwhile, Angel sitting quite comfortably onto items, resetting now and getting an Oblivion Orb to counter Jackie Love's lifesteal already, as well as Karsa's Gore Drinker lifesteal, and already things are looking quite grim on the side of TES, as Suning just have so much more tools left to their on their side of the so many more tools than TES. Knight now stealing away the blue buff yet again from SOFM. SOFM is not going to be happy about that. Probably looking to wring it away from Knight's cold dead corpse in the coming fights, as Dragon is coming up in 2 minutes time. Baron of course has been out, but however both teams not really looking to contest it. Both teams have tons of damage for the Baron, however, and when they do opt to go for it, especially when items begin to build, they will have plenty of damage to be able to take it down. 369 now pushing out the top side as Bin and On in the bottom side securing priority as well. The only two outer turrets standing are on the side of TES, as TES begin to start up Baron with two members. 369 now there to help them secure with the utility of his shields. However, as soon as it's spotted out, TES kite away as Zoa lands another E. Zoa, despite being caught out twice, is not afraid to go in as he is being harassed, stunned, and CC'd down by various members, as Karsa jumping way ahead of his team, landing a stun onto Angel, however having to force his E out and run out of the fight with barely any hit points, as On also coming out of the fight with just a sliver of HP. 369 shields really coming in clutch there, keeping his team alive. However, On, despite being not so tanky, yet still being the front line for his team, actually has done a fantastic job and has continuously evaded death. However, with I think with Dragon spawning in 50 seconds, TES are still out on the map. Suning have managed to reset in time, and they are in fact slightly ahead of TES. Might look to get some vision in first, as they have bot side jungle of TES's entrances warded up exceptionally well, and also getting the mid lane priority that is necessary 30 seconds before Dragon spawns. The entirety of TES and Suning are in attendance, as the wave that is building in the top side looks in favor of Suning Gaming, while the wave in the bot side looks in favor of TES, but I believe that Bin is heading down there. Oh, no, never mind. Poke coming out from the side of Suning is also vastly superior to the poke coming out from the side of TES, as their poke really at this point is just Knight. The range advantage of TES of Suning is well and truly being the deciding factor in these little exchanges before the objective spawn, as just so much damage coming out from the poke of the Kaisa, of the Galio, of the Victor, of the Nidalee, as Dragon is started up there by the side of Suning. Suning in the bottom side of the river, TS in the top side with Bin behind them. Dragon goes over to SOFM, a short contest as Zoa misses his ultimate, and Pantheon looking to jump in. Zoa jumping in ahead first, but however getting destroyed as On using his ultimate to create space as Bin enters the backline, zoning 3 members, using his stopwatch in the perfect time as SOFM jumps. Another Zhonya's going off as Jackie Love is left by his team to use his ultimate. However, On jumping in to CC him gets taken down by the last Scatter the Weak from Knight, as the rest of Suning just rotate straight away to the Baron. Sustain is not a problem with Bin, nor is it a problem with SOFM on their team. Huanfeng can also sustain decently well with the E from SOFM, as Angel with his red buff will also sustain up in time. However, 369 looking to contest with Knight, as the two solo laners are in position. However, they arrive way too late as the Baron is taken by the side of Suning. Suning, just a huge team comp difference, I think, at this point, as they seem to enjoy playing these compositions with more range, really suffocating out the enemy, as a beautiful ultimate coming in there from Zoa. I was wrong, he did not miss that, but then the E taking him way too deep, taking him into the backline as Karsa jumps into the backline as well. However, On jumps in to peel for his carries with his ultimate, as Bin deals with the 3 carries of 369, kind of keeping them busy. 3 carries of TS keeping them busy until the fight is over, using his Zonias to ensure that he does not go down, and with the durability that his Terex gives him. Oh, I'm sorry, it was a stopwatch, as he now changes that stopwatch into a full-fledged Guardian Angel, as Scuttlecrab is kidnapped by the side of Knight and secured with the damage from him, as both teams are looking to posture around the bottom side. However, with no objectives up, I think Suning would do a lot better now to be pushing a lane like the bot side, which Bin was just at. However, Bin opting to give it up now to try and join his team. Knight, seeing Bin enter that bush, walked towards it in order to inspect it as the bottom lane tier 3 outer tower is taken by Bin. Top side, Suning has also got the push advantage. Suning just able to prep their waves better than TES has, as Knight in the bush looking to catch out Bin 369 and Bin 369 and Knight versus Bin and Huanfeng. However, Huanfeng jumping in with his ultimate, simply getting all the damage out as the second part of the empowered Q from 369 comes out to kill out Huanfeng and to trigger his Guardian Angel. However, on coming in to save his AD carry with the taunt, has been continuing to go for it with his ultimate extended. Jackie Love proccing his ultimate, however, being zoned out of the entire fight by the Victor ultimate. The damage on the side of Suning is just too much for Jackie Love to be able to sustain with his lifesteal item. And just like that, Suning are in a position to look to close out game number 1 with Knight dead for 20 seconds, as well as Zoe with Karsa 3 seconds behind both of them. Baron minions being escorted in through the bottom side, and the damage ringing out from many members of Suning. The game looks to be over as game 1 in a quite slow fashion and a very methodical, well thought out fashion. Suning take game 1 away from the summer 2020 champions, and really nothing much to be said in that game. It was just a huge team composition difference. Suning playing to their team composition exceptionally well. TES not having such a great time against the range advantage that Suning's team had. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow for the next round of commentary. See ya!